Hi everybody, welcome back to Sketch to Sea. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than what we usually do. I'm here with Captain Chris on HH 6605 Flash. And where are we?
Currently we're in Rendezvous Bay, St. John, Virgin Islands. Sitting on the anchor, we had a beautiful night, and yeah, just hanging.
So you want to tell me a little bit about this boat specifically?
So this is 66, technically number 5. This boat was launched in 2017. This is the only boat that's got the forward cockpit version of the 66s. Similar layout as to kind of interior wise, but we've got a 4-cabin layout. Everything's kind of up top, so there's a lot of living space. The other 66s are a little bit more isolated in certain areas. This is kind of just one big area that you can kind of see. I don't know if you guys do the tour, but front to back is all kind of one see-through level space.
Nice. Full carbon. Where is this boat made?
So this is the Xiamen, China, with HH catamarans. Paul Hakes and Hudson Wang are the two guys involved here, and most of the guys from that whole the HH factory that so all the South Africa guys to Australia, you name it. But full carbon construction. And
you personally have a little bit of an interesting history with HH and Gunboat.
Yeah.
So you've actually had the opportunity to commission both. And do you want to just tell me a little bit about your experience on Gunboat and then to HH?
So I mean, I've been doing this for boats similar to this for about 10 years, all the way back to the first gen South African boats. Did a lot of sailing on those when I was in my kind of early 20s, and then ended up getting a job kind of sailing all over on one of the 66s. So got to kind of see the transformation from the South African boats as they were going into the 60s. I was never involved with the 60s, but then when they made the transition to North Carolina, I got back involved with the 55s. Did a lot of sailing on those, and then as well as the G4 when they launched that boat. Was playing around with that a little bit.
So you have extensive history in
both
carbon
sides.
Carbon constructed sailing catamarans.
It was. And then as soon as kind of that Gunboat went to the dark side, I ended up talking with Peter, my girlfriend, and I at the time, my girlfriend and I, who were able to kind of make that transition with Hudson. So we basically from Gunboat brought all that knowledge into what Gino and the guys. I mean, they've got an incredible machine. Bring in like the early designers from Gunboat, the original Gunboats, into this, and you see a lot of the similarities, but kind of the way that things have transitioned through just the learning curve of what they found out about the South African boats and the America's Cup has really transitioned well into what they've kind of been able to build here.
So every whole number is learned something off of the previous one.
Yeah, all the way back to Tribe 66, the original, or 62 Gunboat that was the OG. That was I think it was like one of the Sailing World said that it was like one of the top 10 transformation boats for the industry. I mean, it changed everything.
Interesting. So let's talk about some of the specifics of Flash. As most of the other people out there know, there's quite a bit of solar coming onto the market with regards to sailing vessels of all sorts, and being a catamaran, we have such a great platform.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys do here?
So we've got we went to Solbian. We've got about 24 panels up top, so 24 of the 125 watt panels. We're pulling like 40 amps on a nice sunny day, up to between 40 and 50 amps. It's all based on the degree of the sun.
Right.
We didn't actually put any solar panels just directly underneath the boom. So there is a fair amount of real estate we've got up there that we could have done more. But we've got a fairly small battery bank compared to what we could have done on here. It's 3 lithiums. Yeah.
3, but that's 520 amp hours or so.
Yeah, 560, something like that. So I mean, it's for what we're using the boat for. We can pretty much run systems through the day, charge back up, depending on how the amount of usage. Like water pumps draw a fair amount to just the network alone, with the C zone and the BNGs up, so you can go through fair amount of power, but we try to regulate that and just watch it through the day.
Would you have changed anything? Would you have done it differently?
Yeah, I mean, if we could add a few more batteries on here to try to just enlarge that battery bank. The real estate, like you said, there's a lot of room in these catamarans, so fill it with what you can, especially if it's going to be, something that allows you to have more power. I think that we could have done a bit more solar, and now actually, I mean, it's just becoming a more efficient. Solar panels are coming out constantly, so when you finally put the order in and you install them, that next year they're coming out with the 145s, and now it's
in the same space.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a battle to try to stay in as efficient as you can with the rapid efficiency that the industry makes every year.
So I just want to remind everybody that this is more of a performance-oriented catamaran. It's not so much as a cruising or live aboard. So they do, we have all the bells and whistles as far as enough refrigeration, ice makers, wine chillers, everything like that. But they can't run their air conditioning overnight on the battery bank. And that's really why I was asking that question. Yeah.
I mean, and we were talking earlier about DC. There's a couple of these DC air cons. There's some, there's a few boats that are very similar to this that have been able to transition pretty well by, especially just recently, by going to bigger battery banks and having different types of efficiency usage with things like the air conditioning that would be able to run on a DC system instead of pulling massive amperage. So especially in the last year, I think there's just been a lot of growth on how to improve that. Yeah.
So you originally got into the catamaran right at the beginning with those early gunboats.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2009, so they had been around for a while. It was always just this. That was the pedigree, that was the creme de la creme.
But you were commissioning them.
Not until they kind of got back into North Carolina.
Okay.
I was running a Gunboat 66. I was over in the Med, and then still racing a bunch. So, running a boat or a number of the boats for a few years, but also when I was young, I was just kind of floating to whoever was hiring. If there was an opportunity, I was there. So yeah, you just trying to do whatever I could to get as much experience on these boats. So I was working on Tribe, Zenyatta, the boat Pantera, a number of these, just to try to learn as much as you can, especially with some of the captains that at the time and still, I mean, some of the best captains in the industry run these boats.
From what I've seen, you single-hand this boat with relative ease.
Yeah, and that's 10 years experience with a similar setup, and especially that forward cockpit makes it really easy to there's the different modes that you can go into. Like racing will have 9 guys and everyone's got a job. If you want to just do some short-handed day sails, you can make it, everything's run in one spot, slower maneuvers, but you can single-hand the boat as long as it's just kind of anchor up and down and until you need someone to pick up a mooring or get on the dock.
Yeah, that I find absolutely fascinating, that you can single-hand a 66-foot racing boat.
Yeah, and it's when it sails up and you're having fun, your smile when we were sailing, and you're kind of God, this is just like a big toy. That's the feeling you want. Is you want it to be easy. You want it to still feel like a toy. It's not just this lumbering kind of where you need 4 or 5 guys to go sailing.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the feeling of the acceleration.
Yeah, on a huge boat, on a tennis court, you see the puff, and there's a reason you call it out, because you feel the acceleration. You want to know if it's a header or lift and how you're going to drive down it.
So this boat originally had a captive winch up front. What happened there? What was the idea behind that originally?
So basically, we wanted to be able to you want to be able to run the boat from that forward cockpit, as well as be able to kind of manage all the sails from these aft helm stations. We've got a handful of controls at the bucket seat here. Your main sheet, traveler, your dagger boards up and down, and then we added a captive reel at the mast base for the self-tacking jib or the staysail. The idea was that if you as soon as you were set up forward, you could come back and still do a couple of, have your trimming option for just kind of the short-handed setup. But what we found was with the captive reel on the staysail, you pretty much just sheet it in, and it just lives almost at a upwind, full trim setup. Being at the mast base, there's a lot of water ingress in that section. We tried to isolate that, but it was more of a maintenance and the lack of use. We would always just end up bringing it all the way out, going full trim, and just using it upwind at full trim, and then tacking over, and you never really ease that sheet out. And as soon as we were going to kind of ease it off or switch gears, technically we would just go with the Solent. So we'd go with the 110% jib that we've got up forward of that.
So you'd be doing a sail change. So you basically had this ineffective.
Yeah, this $40,000 winch that I had to clean every day. That was also
you weren't using.
Yeah, and that's and it's heavy. The cabling. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. So as you start going through these boats, you think, all this is going to work, and then as you start to use it, you're like, we never use that. And that was
a great idea, but
I know,
it didn't follow through.
And there's many things that we could use the captive winch for, but right now it's just sitting in a storage unit. So if anybody wants a $40,000 captive winch, it's in prime
Chris
shape.
Is your man.
Yeah.
So with all your experience and history, where do you take this boat? Where is its home base? Where's its future? How does the owner like to use the boat as well? That's it.
The owner of this boat is kind of uses this as like just his adventure platform. We've got tons of toys on the boat, from dive tanks to foil boards, surfboards, stand-ups, loads of just windsurfers, you name it. So we each trip's going to be a little different based on kind of what group he's going to bring, if it's going to be family oriented or if it's going to be the boys on board, or if we're going to go racing for the week. We've got a 20-foot container that we can kind of switch gears into. We call them modes. So it's going to be a delivery mode to race mode to family cruising. For the last couple of years, we've done East Coast, U.S., and then the Caribbean mostly. So the BVI is just our comfort zone. We call it the milk run. You're just gonna go out, and we know exactly what's what, where to have fun, what it's gonna be, and it's just your comfort zone. Especially for the first year of a boat, you kind of want to have that.
Right.
And so we've the first couple of years, we've just settled into the boat, really gotten comfortable using it. This season, we're gonna get the boat over to Europe. Gonna do a little bit of the UK, and then slowly start working our way down to Portugal.
But I believe you're shipping the boat over to Europe.
Correct.
Due to time constraints,
not. I mean, we've sailed this boat offshore. I think it's got about 15,000 miles on it now. In 2 years, it's an awesome platform offshore, and super comfortable. I mean, it's just stable, safe, and offshore. We were talking about this earlier, where this boat, being a performance catamaran, you can sail it at 100% and just go full send, and we'll have normally nine guys.
9 guys, yeah.
Yeah, mostly pros. A couple of amateurs that everyone, we'll basically put like one pro with an amateur, so that those guys are taking a lot of experience out of sailing a boat like this.
Okay.
And then when we're sailing offshore, it's 5 guys, 6 guys, and women. We got everybody on board. We had a girl from the SCA Volvo on board on this last delivery, and she was just,
oh, that's great.
She could not believe how comfortable we could sail the boat and still be doing, not quite Volvo 70 speeds, but if we wanted to, like that, it's there. But majority of the time, we're sailing this boat at about 75%, 80%. When the owner's on the boat, it's a bit more, just to get he wants to have that smile. But for us to just get from A to B and make sure everything's safe and we're not breaking too much, we don't want a work list when we show up. So work list is the big thing. But yeah, to get back to the question, I mean, so we're going down the coast of Portugal into the Med, and then after that we're going to actually ship the boat again based on time restraints to out to Sydney, try to catch the Sydney Hobart race, watch the beginning of that, and then maybe get over to the America's Cup to start to watch those AC-72s.
HH Catamarans makes not just 66-foot models. They make anything from 50 up, basically. Full carbon.
Anything you want, really. I mean,
yeah, I guess so. All of their interiors are different. You can check online. There's tons of different people out there putting walkthroughs through. But Chris has the most experience out of anybody I've certainly spoke to sailing on these boats, and with his history in the gunboats originally, it's the performance catamaran market that's really picking up and turning more into a lifestyle. These crazy boats are totally comfortable to live on, move anywhere in the world, safe, secure, and fast. And as he said, he's got all the toys on board too.
Exactly. Yeah, you get the best of everything. I mean, it's all the worlds.
So with all the miles that you've put on this and your history, how does HH stack up versus Gunboat?
Well, and like we said, like just kind of the way that the learning curve of design, and I mean, it's 20 years down the road now from when the first Gunboat launched to where we're at now, and those M&M's, Gino and Pete's original design. So come in 20 years down the road, this is where we're at with wider transoms that are got a much better finish for sailing fast and more volume, but being able to still keep your speeds up, where you've got big seaboards,
curved dagger boards.
Yeah, there's so many upgrades that have come along from, and it's just kind of this trickle down effect from either the America's Cup or there's so many different elements of the industry that kind of fall back into something that you're going to see here. Originally I don't think you'd be able to put tillers on a lot of these boats to being able to get the steering balanced and
So how does HH stack up in the marketplace overall, you think? You don't have to say the whole answer again.
Right. But no, I think Gino and the guys have done a really good job at dialing in. Gino and Pete have done a good job at dialing the boat in. In terms of volume, I don't think there's anything else on the market that's got as much space. The price point is super competitive compared to what you're going to get especially for how much boat you're going to get. And then customization, like you've just got an endless array. You basically get a shell and you build out what you want. And I don't see a whole lot of guys doing that.
And you would clearly say that it's definitely the best value out there.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done as much homework as you have, but in terms of what, how we stack up and the way I see a lot of the other guys using their boats, or even just sailing competitively against a lot of the other boats. Competitively in the market, it's top tier for sure. So
the yard where this was built in China what is their experience building these? There can't be that many of these out there.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of builders that are building full carbon cats. So when it comes to,
they don't have the capability, the means,
there's so many different values that play into that. I mean, cost, your labor hours. It's an expensive boat, but to build, and it takes a pretty high education level to be able to do infusion, and Gino and Pete have been heavily involved with this from the beginning, but Hudson's built just under 20 of these big carbon catamarans, from the Gunboat 60s to a handful of these HA 66s, their 55s, the 50 models that are pumping out now.
So just quick clarification there. You said Hudson. That's Hudson Yacht and Marine Group, which is the parent company of HH Catamarans.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And they've just got a massive facility there. They could, Hudson's got his fingers in a lot of things out in China. And then to bring in Paul Hakes, who's just an incredible boat builder from New Zealand, with a laundry list on his resume of great boats, is a really good combination.
So the combination of Morelli and Melvin, Hudson Yacht Marine, Paul Hakes, all of that came together to create HH Catamarans.
Correct, yeah. And then what the guys have in the yard, from the a lot of the South African guys from the old Gunboat yard ended up there building the 60s, and that's who's building the new HH. And they've got a history with Morelli and Melvin, and yeah, it's one big family.
So if you had the opportunity to go out and pick from anywhere in the world to build your boat, what would you do?
I mean, yeah. If you're looking at a big carbon
Yeah,
catamaran,
don't be partial here.
Yeah, yeah. It's in terms of just having the guys that have done a lot of these boats, like Gino and Pete, that have done a lot of design in this market, and then even just their knowledge on all performance boats. I mean, they've got a pretty big folder of all the designs that they've done, and then
So you would have taken basically the same kind of route that we did.
absolutely, yeah.
Look up who's building these, where are they built.
If you look at the most experience at every level, you're gonna end up in the same place.
Excellent. Great. I feel so much better about our purchase. Well, thank you for your time today, Chris. We're going to enjoy the rest of our time on board here. It's down to hours now, unfortunately.
Yeah, but we got a nice downwind sail, so that'll be the best part.
This is happening when we were doing the first filmings, though, is I would just get so flustered doing this because it's so far
But
out
it's
of my
also on the
comfort
spot.
zone.
You're like trying to think, okay, how am I gonna?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Thanks for your time, Chris. It was really great talking to you.
Absolutely. Good to have you guys on board. Enjoying an HH catamaran.
Do you want to say HH just one more time?
I mean, like the little label. Yeah. It'd be like a little sparkly logo.